The relay station had not spoken in 3,000 years. It drifted alone between dead stars, wrapped in frozen dust and old radiation. Its surface was cracked and dark, its energy reserves long exhausted. Most modern ships that passed through the region never noticed it. Their sensors filtered it out as space debris, harmless relic from a forgotten age. But the relay was not dead. Deep inside its core, a final protocol waited. It had no mind, no fear, and no hope. It only had instructions written by a civilization that no longer existed. Those instructions were simple. If extinction was certain, send the signal. At the edge of the relay's broken power grid, a reserve cell failed. The drop was small, almost meaningless. Yet it crossed a threshold written into the relay's logic long ago. Systems that had slept for ages began to stir. Dust shook loose as ancient circuits warmed for the first time. Since the galaxy was younger, the relay did not know who would hear it. It did not know if anyone would care. It only knew it must speak. A pulse spread outward. It was weak by modern standards, narrow and crude. No encryption protected it. No diplomatic code softened its meaning. The signal carried only raw data, pain compressed into numbers and images. Burning worlds. Screaming sensors. A final message repeated until the power ran out. Help the signal raced across empty space. It passed through regions claimed by empires that rose and fell without ever knowing it existed. Automated buoys recorded it and discarded it as corrupted noise. Military arrays flagged it as outdated and ignored it. Scholars would one day argue that this was the moment the galaxy failed. The signal kept going, far beyond mapped lanes. Past stars considered unreachable, it reached a place no modern chart acknowledged. Gravity twisted strangely there, pulling light into slow spirals. Radiation storms raged without pattern. Even unmanned probes avoided the region. Hidden inside that chaos was a single object. It was massive, dark, and silent. Its hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it. Layers of armor overlapped like the scales of some deep-sea creature. Long scars ran across its surface, evidence of battles no one alive remembered. The warship did not drift by accident, it waited. When the signal touched its outer sensor net, nothing happened at first. Then, deep within the ship, a system that had never been allowed to fail recognized the code. It was not a language the galaxy used anymore. It was older than most living species human. Power surged from sealed reactors. Internal lights flickered on one by one, chasing darkness through long corridors. The ship did not wake gently. It woke like a predator disturbed from deep sleep. Inside a reinforced chamber, cryopod hissed. Frost cracked and slid away as pressure equalized. The pod's lid unlocked with a heavy sound that echoed through the room. Inside lay a man, still and pale. Dark hair floating slightly in the suspension fluid, Captain Han Tezu opened his eyes. Pain came first. Then cold, then memory. His lungs burned as the pod drained. He gasped, muscles locking as gravity returned. Restraints released, and he collapsed forward onto the metal floor. His hands shook as he pushed himself up, breath ragged, heart pounding like a weapon firing inside his chest. The room was unfamiliar, yet deeply known. He had trained here, bled here, slept here. Vitals stabilizing, a calm voice said. It came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Han lifted his head. "Era," he said hoarsely. "Yes, Captain," the ship's artificial intelligence replied. "Cryo revival complete. You have been asleep for 3,112 standard years." Han closed his eyes. He had expected centuries. He had not expected this. "Status report," said. "Humanity is currently listed as extinct or culturally erased in all known galactic records," Ara said. "Your vessel is designated a myth-class anomaly. No active human governments detected." Silence filled the chamber. Han laughed once. It was dry and sharp, with no humor in it. "So they finally did it," he said. Era did not answer. It was not programmed to respond to bitterness. Han forced himself to stand. His body protested, but training carried him through the pain. He reached for the wall and steadied himself. Why was I awakened? He asked. A valid extinctional level distress signal was received, Era said. The signal matches pre-fall emergency protocols? Han's eyes hardened. Play it. The room filled with light as images projected into the air. Broken ships. Cities reduced to ash. Alien figures fleeing through smoke, cut down by shapes that moved too fast to clearly see. Data scrolled beside the images, showing population numbers dropping to 0. The word help repeated, distorted but desperate. Han watched without speaking. His jaw tightened. When the projection ended, he stood very still. Wake the others, he said. Yes. Captain. Across the ship, more pods began to open. First Officer Kong Jamin came out fighting, swinging at shadows until gravity and memory caught up with him. Engineer Lee Dun swore loudly as she slipped on thawing ice and hit the floor. Medical Officer Park So-yeon emerged quietly, eyes sharp as she checked her own pulse and breathing. They gathered in the briefing chamber. Wearing emergency uniforms, steam still rising from their skin, no one smiled. Kong looked around the room. How long? He asked. Over 3,000 years, Han said. Lee let out a low whistle. Guess we missed a lot. So Jian crossed her arms. Or they missed us. Ara projected a star map. It looked wrong. Borders were unfamiliar. Names meant nothing. The galaxy reorganized after humanity's withdrawal, Era explained. Several dominant coalitions now control most known space. They left that signal unanswered, Kong said. Yes, Ara replied. Han stared at the map. Set course for the signal origin. There was a pause. That region is currently classified as restricted, Ara said. Multiple factions claim authority. Han did not look away. We are not asking permission, the ship responded. Engines that had not burned in ages began to glow. Space bent slightly around the hull as power levels climbed, far away. Alien sensor stations detected the change, warnings spread through command centers. Energy readings spiked beyond safe charts. Observers argued, recalibrated, and checked again. The numbers did not change. Something old was moving. On the bridge, Han took his seat. It fit him perfectly, as if no time had passed at all. His crew moved with quiet purpose around him. Bring all systems online, he said. Yes, Captain, Kong replied, as the warship turned toward the stars. Its shadow crossed the dead relay station. The relay had no power left to watch it go. Its duty was complete. Galaxy had ignored the SOS. Humanity had not. The warship moved through space like it had never been. Asleep stars stretched and bent as the engines, pushed beyond limits that modern ships feared to cross. The hull creaked under controlled stress, metal flexing as it was designed to do. Inside, lights stayed steady. Systems reported green across the board. For the crew, time felt strange. They had been awake for hours, yet their minds still lagged behind reality. 3,000 years had passed, and the galaxy outside no longer knew their names. That truth sat heavy in the air, unspoken but felt by all. Captain Han Taesu stood on the bridge, hands resting on the command rail. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp, always moving. He watched the stars, but he was really watching his crew. Status, he said. Engines stable, First Officer Kong Jamin replied. Power output is holding at 96%. No strain beyond expected levels. Life support? Han asked. Nominal, Park So-yeon said from the medical station. Crew vitals are normal. Cryosickness fading faster than predicted. Lee Dian snorted from her console. We always bounce back fast. Guess that never changed. Han allowed himself a small nod. Humans healed quickly, adapted quickly. That was why they had survived their homeworld in the first place. Han said. Explain the current political layout. The star map shifted. New borders appeared, glowing lines slicing through space. The dominant power is the Galactic Coalition, Era said. Formed after humanity's disappearance. It claims to preserve stability through regulation and collective defense. Kong crossed his arms. Translation: They control travel, weapons limits, and military expansion, Ara replied. Unauthorized warships are considered threats. Lee looked up. We're very unauthorized. Yes, Ara said calmly. Han studied the map. Any records of contact with the SOS source? Minimal, Ara answered. The region was marked as a quarantine zone. Entry discouraged. No rescue attempts recorded. Silence followed. So they knew, Sojin said quietly. And they did nothing. Han did not respond. His jaw tightened just enough to show his anger. The ship's sensors chimed. Contact, Kong said. Multiple ships ahead. Coalition design. The bridge screens filled with images of sleek alien vessels. Their hulls were bright, almost decorative, shaped more for presence than combat. Range? Han asked. Closing fast, Kong said. Weapons charging, but low yield. Open a channel, Han said. The screen shifted. An alien officer appeared. Its form was tall and narrow, skin pale blue, eyes set wide apart. It wore a uniform marked with symbols of rank. This is Coalition Patrol Group 7, the alien said. Unidentified vessel, you are violating restricted space. Power down and prepare for inspection. Han stepped forward. This is Captain Han Tezu of the human ship Resolute, he said evenly. We are responding to an active distress signal. The alien officer paused. Human, it repeated slowly. That designation is obsolete. It is accurate, Han replied. The alien's eyes narrowed. Your vessel matches no registered design. Your energy output exceeds allowed limits. You will comply. We will not, Han said. The alien's tone hardened. This is your final warning, the channel cut. Lee exhaled sharply. That went well. They're nervous, Kong said. They don't know what we are. They're afraid. Soyan corrected. Han nodded. Raise shields. Do not fire unless fired upon. The alien ships spread out, forming a loose arc. Energy built along their weapons arrays. Captain Kang said they are locking targeting systems. Han's voice stayed calm. Hold. A bright flash crossed space. One alien ship fired. The shot struck the Resolute's shields and vanished like rain against stone. The shield barely flickered. On the bridge, no one moved. Era, Han said. Disable their weapons. Yes, Captain. The Resolute moved. It did not charge. It did not retreat. It simply shifted position with impossible speed. Human thrusters. Burned hot, pushing the ship sideways in a maneuver that crushed untrained bodies. Inside, inertial systems compensated instantly. Beams of focused energy lanced out, precise and controlled. They struck alien ships at key points. Weapon systems went dark. Engines stuttered and died. One by one, the patrol vessels drifted, helpless but intact. The entire exchange lasted less than 10 seconds. On the alien flagship, alarms screamed. The officer stared at the display in shock. The channel reopened. What are you? The alien demanded. Human, Han said again. We did not authorize combat, the alien said, voice shaking. You fired first, Han replied. We responded, the alien swallowed. This action will be reported. Please do, Han said. The channel closed. Kong let out a slow breath. We just embarrassed them. No, Lee said softly. We scared them. Across coalition space, data packets spread like wildfire. Sensor logs, combat recordings, energy readings that made no sense. A single ship, ancient, overpowering a modern patrol without destroying it. Analysts replayed the footage again and again. Some called it fake, others called it impossible. A few old historians whispered a word long removed from official texts. Deathworlders. On the Resolute, the crew returned to their stations. Set course again, Han said. We do not stop. Yes, Captain, Kong replied. As the ship accelerated, more signals appeared on long-range sensors. Distant fleets adjusting course. Observers watching from the shadows. They're tracking us now, Lee said. Let them, Han said. He stared at the star map, eyes fixed on the blinking marker that showed the SOS origin. 3,000 years ago, humanity had been feared now. The galaxy was beginning to remember why. The news reached the Coalition faster than the Resolute could travel. In command halls filled with soft light and calm colors, officers argued over flashing displays. Data streams showed the same moment again and again, an ancient-looking ship moving with impossible speed, disabling a modern patrol without loss. "This must be an error," one commander said. "The energy readings are not possible. They are consistent," another replied. "All sensors agree." At the center of the chamber, High Coordinator Velas watched in silence. Velas had lived longer than most species and had learned to fear patterns more than weapons. "Identify the vessel again," Velas said. "A human warship," an analyst replied. "Designation unknown. Claims to be responding to an SOS." Murmurs spread through the room. "Humans are extinct," someone said. "Or erased," another whispered. Velas raised a hand. "Send a diplomatic task force, not a patrol. I want answers before panic spreads." Orders went out across Coalition space. Meanwhile, aboard the Resolute, the crew felt the change in the air. "They're reorganizing," Kong Jamin said, watching long-range scans. "Multiple ships changing course, not attack formations, more." "Careful," they learned, Lead-In said, "or they're pretending to." Hantesu stood quietly, hands behind his back. He remembered similar moments from long ago when humanity first reached the stars. Fear always came before respect. "Ara," he said, "any update on the SOS source?" "Partial data recovered," Ara replied. The signal originated from a former civilian cluster. Estimated population before destruction, 8 billion. Sojian's breath caught. 8 billion. Han closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his voice was steady. "'Cause unknown hostile entities," Ara said. "Designation: Void Swarm. Biological and mechanical traits combined." Lee frowned. "That sounds bad." "It is worse than the name suggests," Ara replied. "Recorded combat effectiveness exceeds standard military thresholds." Before anyone could speak, the bridge lights shifted. "Incoming transmission," Kong said. "Multiple Coalition ships. They're requesting dialogue." Han nodded. "Put it through." The main display filled with images. Several alien figures appeared, each from a different species. They wore symbols of authority and restraint. None looked relaxed. "This is Coalition Diplomatic Envoy," Terrell once said. "Unidentified human vessel, we request peaceful communication." "You have it," Han said. Terrell inclined its head. "Your appearance has caused significant concern." Humanity was believed to be gone. "We were sleeping," Han replied. "There's a difference." Some of the envoys shifted uncomfortably. "You violated restricted space and engaged Coalition forces." Terrell said carefully. "You fired first," Han said. "We did not destroy your ships. Consider that mercy." A long pause followed. "The region you are approaching is under Coalition quarantine," Terrell said. "It is unsafe." "So was our homeworld," Han replied. "We survived." Terrell's eyes narrowed slightly. "The threat within that zone is beyond your understanding." Han leaned forward. "You ignored a distress call from billions." "That tells me enough." One of the envoys spoke sharply. "The decision was made to contain the threat by letting everyone inside die," Kong said. Silence. "So -YE, Owen stepped closer to Han. "They chose order over lives." Han nodded slowly. "We will not." Terrell's voice hardened. "If you proceed, you will be acting without Coalition approval." "Then approve it later," Han said. "Or don't." The channel cut without farewell. Lee exhaled. "That was politics." "Yes," Han said. "And politics kills quietly." The Resolute continued on course. As they drew closer to the SOS location, space itself began to look wrong. Debris fields stretched for millions of kilometers. Frozen remains of ships drifted like tombstones. Kong swallowed. This was a massacre. Era began projecting recovered logs from wreckage. Civilian traffic. Evacuation orders that came too late. Weapon systems never meant for war firing in panic, so Dashwa-un turned away from the display. They never had a chance. Suddenly, sensors screamed. Contacts, Kang shouted. Multiple fast-moving objects. The screen filled with dark shapes pouring out of the debris. Void swarm. They moved like living shadows, ships fused with flesh and metal. No clear formation. No fear. Shields up, Han ordered. Do not panic. The swarm struck. They slammed into the Resolute's shields, claws and weapons scraping against invisible barriers. The impact shook the ship, but the shields held. They're testing us, Lee said. Learning. Return fire, Han said. Controlled. Human weapons spoke. Precise bursts cut through the swarm, tearing apart creatures that screamed through open channels. The enemy adapted quickly, shifting patterns, sacrificing units to study damage. They're smart, Kong said. Too smart. Han watched the battle with grim focus. So are we. The fight lasted minutes, then hours. The swarm withdrew as suddenly as it arrived, leaving broken bodies drifting in space. On the bridge, no one cheered, so -YEON checked medical scans. No casualties. First contact survived, Lee said quietly. Han looked at the ruined starscape ahead. This is what they hid. A priority signal broke through. Coalition emergency broadcast, Ara said. The screen showed chaos. Council chambers filled with shouting, fleets mobilizing. Velas appeared, face tense. Human Captain, your actions have confirmed our worst fears. Han met the gaze. Your inaction confirmed ours. The void swarm is expanding, Velas said. If you provoke it, it was already provoked, Han said. By neglect, Velas hesitated. What do you intend to do? Han straightened. We will finish what you were too afraid to start, he said. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, worlds watched the recordings. Humans fighting monsters and winning. Fear spread. Hope followed close behind. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy understood one truth. Humanity had returned, and it was not asking permission. The Resolute moved deeper into the dead zone. Stars were hidden behind clouds of dust and frozen gas. Broken satellites drifted past the viewports, their lights long dead. Every direction showed signs of sudden loss. It was not the slow decay of time, it was the mark of violence. On the bridge, the crew worked in silence. Kong Jimin tracked motion patterns across the debris field. The swarm is still nearby, he said. They're staying just out of range. They're watching, Li Dine replied. Learning again. Han Taesu nodded. Let them. Era continued to pull data from shattered memory cores and black boxes. Images flickered across the displays. Families running. Emergency shelters failing. Ships packed far beyond safe limits, trying to flee. So Dashwa-un stood with her arms tight against her body. They sent evacuation orders too late, she said. These people trusted the coalition to protect them. They trusted rules, Han said quietly. Rules don't fight back. A new projection appeared. ARA highlighted a structure hidden within the debris. It was massive, spherical, and partially buried under wreckage. Primary civilian archive, Era said. It served as a regional data vault. Can we access it? Han asked. Possible, Era replied. Risk level high. Han did not hesitate. Do it. The Resolute maneuvered closer. Mechanical arms extended, clearing debris with careful force. As the ship docked with the broken vault, power surged through ancient connectors inside the archive. Systems flickered to life. Records poured in. The truth unfolded piece by piece. The void swarm had not appeared suddenly. Early signs were detected decades before the massacre. Small colonies vanished. Trade routes went silent. Reports were filed and reviewed and buried. Coalition leaders argued about cost, risk, and panic. They labeled the affected zone unstable and sealed it off. Travel was banned. Information was restricted. Containment was chosen over confrontation, so they locked the door, Lee said bitterly, and walked away. They sacrificed billions to protect order, Kong added. Han said nothing. His face was hard, eyes cold. Era shifted the display. Additional data detected. Human classification tags present. Everyone turned. Explain, Han said. The Coalition referenced historical human conflict data during internal debates, Ara said. Humans were listed as a potential solution. So why weren't we contacted? Soyan asked. Conclusion reached, Era replied. Humans were considered too dangerous to reintroduce. Silence filled the bridge. They had been judged, not for failure, for effectiveness. Kong clenched his fists. They knew we could fight this. And they chose fear instead, Li said. Han turned away from the display. Save everything. The galaxy will see it. As the Resolute pulled free from the archive, motion alarms flared. They're coming, Kong said. Swarm units. A lot of them. Space ahead twisted as shapes emerged from the darkness. Hundreds became thousands. A living tide, so -YEON whispered. That's an invasion force. Han took his seat. Battle stations. The Resolute did not retreat. The first wave hit like a storm. Organic weapons slammed into shields. Energy pulses burned against armor. The ship shook under the assault, but systems held. Shields at 80%, Kong reported. Return fire, Han said. Pattern Delta. Human weapons fired in disciplined bursts. Missiles split mid-flight, changing direction. Energy beams cut precise lines through the swarm. Creatures died. More took their place. They don't care about losses, Li said. They're testing our limits. Then we teach them fear, Han replied. He gave a single nod. The Resolute surged forward. It drove straight into the heart of the swarm, its engines burning hot. No alien fleet would attempt such a move. It was reckless. It was brutal. It was human. Close-range weapons activated. Point defense systems turned space into fire. Swarm units were torn apart at distances so close their remains scraped the hull. On the bridge, gravity pulled hard as the ship twisted and rolled. Inertial dampeners screamed but held. They're breaking. Kong shouted. The swarm began to pull back. Formations collapsing as control signals failed. They didn't expect this. Sojian said. Han watched the retreat without satisfaction. This was only a probe. As the battlefield cleared, a signal cut through the noise coalition frequency. Era displayed the source. High Coordinator Velas appeared again. Face strained. You are escalating the conflict, Velas said. The swarm will respond with greater force. Han's voice was steady. They already are. Do not understand the scale of this threat, Velas said. Han leaned forward. You understood enough to hide it. Velas paused. What do you want? The truth released, Han said. All records. All decisions. And freedom of movement. That would destabilize the coalition, Velas said. Good, Han replied. Stability built on silence deserves to fall. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, whispers turned into arguments. Civilians demanded answers. Fringe worlds questioned old laws. The word human spread through networks like fire. On the Resolute, the crew took a brief moment to breathe, so -YON treated minor injuries. Li ran emergency repairs. Kong recalibrated weapons for the next fight. Han stood alone for a moment. Staring at the stars beyond the dead zone, he remembered Earth, storms that tore cities apart, quakes that shattered land, a world that tried to kill its people every day. Humanity had survived because it had no choice. A message appeared on his console. Long-range detection, Era said. Multiple human signal pings. Han's breath caught. Say that again? Dormant human assets responding to your activation code, Era replied. Other ships are waking. Hope stirred. Fear followed. The galaxy had ignored one. So as now it would hear many answers. Han straightened. As the Resolute turned toward its next destination, this war is no longer hidden, he said softly, outside. The darkness seemed to listen. The message went out without warning. It did not pass through. coalition filters, or approval chains. It did not ask for permission or soften its words. The Resolute opened every relay it could reach and sent the truth into open space. Images. Followed the signal, destroyed worlds, ignored warnings, council, records showing sealed borders and silent votes. The final clips showed humans fighting the void swarm and surviving. Across thousands of systems, screens lit up. Civilian networks crashed under the sudden flood of data. People stopped what they were doing and watched fear spread first, then anger, on the Resolute. Huntesu stood on the bridge, watching the transmission counter rise. Message delivered to 73% of known space, Era said. Further spread is uncontrolled. So be it, Han replied. Kang Jimin looked uneasy. We just shattered their silence. Shattered it themselves, Li Den said. We just turned on the lights. Coalition Command reacted within minutes. Emergency sessions were called. Fleets were mobilized, not toward the swarm, but toward the Resolute. Orders conflicted. Some commanders hesitated. Others followed protocol without thinking. On one screen, High Coordinator Velis argued with regional leaders. This will cause unrest, Velis said. We must regain control of the narrative. The narrative is dead, another leader replied. People have eyes. On another world, civilians filled the streets demanding answers. On frontier colonies, local defense forces ignored coalition orders and prepared their own ships. The galaxy was no longer calm. Multiple fleets incoming, Kong said from his station. Coalition signatures, not swarm. Han studied the data. Positions. They're forming a line, Kong replied. Blocking our route, so Yan stepped closer. They're choosing us as the threat. Always do, Han said. The Resolute slowed. Coalition ships filled the forward view. Dozens of them, weapons powered but not firing. A tense silence stretched across the void. A transmission request came through. Han nodded. Put it up. Velis appeared again, looking older than before. You have violated coalition law on a scale never recorded, Velis said. You must stand down. Han's voice was calm. You violated life on a scale that matters. Velis clenched its jaw. If you continue, you will be declared an enemy of the coalition. Han did not hesitate. Then hear this clearly. He leaned forward, eyes steady. Humanity has answered an SOS you ignored, he said. We will destroy the Void Swarm. Any force that tries to stop us will be treated as hostile. The words echoed across open channels. That was the moment. Across the galaxy. Systems marked it in their logs. Humanity had declared war. The coalition fleets did not fire. Some ships powered down weapons. Others slowly moved aside. A few held position, unsure. They're divided, Li said softly. They fear the swarm, Kong added. And now they fear us. Han said nothing. He watched the opening corridor appear as ships shifted away. Proceed, he ordered. The Resolute passed through the line without firing a shot. Behind it, coalition unity fractured as the ship moved deeper into hostile space. New signals appeared. Human codes confirmed, Era announced. Multiple warships exiting stasis. The bridge fell silent. A massive shape appeared on the long-range display. Then another. Then several more old hull designs. Heavy armor. Human. Li let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. We're not alone. We never were. The Void Swarm struck again. This time, it came with purpose. Swarms poured from dark folds in space, larger and more organized than before. They did not rush blindly. They spread out, cutting off retreat paths. They adapted, Kong said. Fast good, Han replied. So will we. The Resolute linked with newly awakened human ships. Data flowed instantly. No debate. No delay. Human doctrine reasserted itself. The battle was brutal. Human ships accelerated beyond coalition safety limits. Maneuvers crushed swarm formations. Some vessels took damage that would have destroyed any other species' crew. Humans endured, so HFY worked nonstop, stabilizing injured crew, pushing bodies beyond what coalition medicine would allow. Pain means you're alive, she told a wounded officer. Stay alive. Lee rerouted power manually when automation failed. Burning her hands on overheated controls, worth it. She muttered. Han coordinated the battle with cold precision. The swarm began to fall back, leaving scorched space behind. This isn't over, Kong said. No, Han agreed. This is the beginning. As the last swarm units vanished, a priority message cut through. It was not coalition, it was human. Earth Command confirming, Era said. Planetary defense active. Mobilization underway. Han closed his eyes. Earth lived. When he opened them, the galaxy looked different. The war had a direction now. Set course for the swarm core zones, Han said. And the coalition? Kong asked. Han's answer was simple. They can follow, he said. Or get out of the way. The space ahead burned. What had once been a calm stretch between stars was now filled with fire, wreckage, and drifting bodies. The void swarm had gathered in numbers never recorded before. It was no longer hiding. It was defending something. On the bridge of the Resolute, silence returned. Not the silence of fear, the silence of focus. Han Tae-Soo stood at the center, fixed on the tactical display. Lines of red and white moved across the screen. Human ships formed sharp angles and tight groups. The swarm spread like a stain, wide and hungry. They're guarding a core, Kong Jamin said. That structure in the center. The image zoomed in. A massive shape pulsed slowly, half organic, half machine. Tendrils extended from it into space, sending signals through the swarm. That's the brain, Lee, Din said, or something close to it. Then we cut it out, Han replied. ARA's voice was steady. Warning. Swarm density exceeds safe combat limits by coalition standards. Han did not look away. Good thing we are not coalition. The human fleet moved. They did not form a single line. They split into groups, each with a clear task. Heavy ships drew attention. Fast ships slipped through gaps. Support ships followed close, repairing and resupplying under fire. This was not chaos. This was doctrine. The swarm reacted instantly. Waves of creatures rushed forward, slamming into human shields. Impacts shook every ship. On the Resolute, alarms rang. Shields dropping, Kong said. 70%, Hold Han said. Human ships surged forward anyway. No alien commander would allow such damage. Human commanders expected it. Missiles detonated inside swarm clusters, tearing paths open. Human ships pushed through smoke and fire. Closing distance where other species feared to go, they're targeting engines, Lee said. Smart. So are we, Han replied. He raised a hand. Execute close assault. The Resolute accelerated straight toward the swarm core. The bridge crew felt the force press into their bodies. Bones creaked. Teeth clenched. Training held. Outside, swarm units latched onto the hull, clawing and cutting. Point defense guns tore them away in sprays of burning flesh and metal. So HFY moved through the ship, steady hands working on wounded crew. Stay with me, she said calmly to a bleeding officer. You are not done yet. The officer nodded, pain clear but controlled. Human ships breaching inner zone, Kong reported. Multiple hull impacts. Losses. Han asked. Damage, not destruction, Kong said. Crews still fighting. Han allowed himself one breath. This was what humans did. They endured. Coalition. Observers watched from far away. Their sensors struggled to track the battle. Human ships moved too fast, too close. Energy spikes exceeded known limits. Reports flooded command centers. They're ignoring safety thresholds, one analyst said. They're using their own ships as weapons, another replied. High Coordinator Velas stared at the feed. Unable to look away? This is madness, Velas whispered. No, an aide replied quietly. This is survival. Back at the front, the Resolute reached the core. The structure pulsed faster as the ship approached. Defensive swarm units threw themselves forward, desperate. Main weapon ready, Lee said. But it will overload half the grid. Han nodded. Do it. The weapon fired. A focused beam tore into the core, burning through layers of living armor. The structure screamed across open channels, sound that made even hardened crew flinch. The swarm reacted violently. Every unit turned toward the Resolute, Captain. Kang warned, "They're all coming for us." Han's voice did not rise. "All ships, cover us." Human warships moved without hesitation. They placed themselves between the Resolute and the swarm. Taking hits meant for their flagship. Shields failed. Hulls burned. Crews fought on. "This is insane," Lee said, eyes wide. "This is loyalty," Han replied. The core began to collapse. Its signals faltered. Swarm units lost coordination, crashing into each other, drifting without direction. "They're breaking." Kong shouted. The Resolute fired again. The core shattered. A shockwave rolled through space, throwing debris and dead swarm bodies in all directions. Human ships rode it out, battered but intact. Silence followed. Not all swarm units were destroyed, but they fled. Without direction, without control, they scattered into deep space. On the bridge. No one spoke for a long moment, then Soshin's voice came over the channel. "Casualties are heavy, but survivable. No ship lost." Lee sank into her chair. "We actually did it." Han watched the debris drift. "No," he said softly. "We proved it can be done, across the galaxy." The recordings spread. Human ships breaking the swarm, humans, taking hits that would kill others and continuing anyway. The term Deathworlder appeared again, in public records, this time. It was spoken with respect. A transmission arrived from Earth. "Forward elements," the message said. "You have changed everything." Han straightened. The war was far from over. But the galaxy now knew the truth. Humanity did not fight because it loved. War it fought because it refused to die. The battle space slowly. Cooled fire faded into drifting embers. Broken pieces of the void swarm floated without purpose, silent and dead. Human ships held formation, scarred but steady. Engines hummed at low power as crews caught their breath. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Han Taesu remained standing. He did not celebrate. He watched the stars. Reports came in from every direction. Hull damage. Injured crew. Ammunition levels low, but stable. Every human ship answered the same way. Operational alive, Kong Jamin let out a slow breath. "We pushed them back farther than any record shows." Soya nodded. "The swarm is broken here. Not destroyed, but afraid." Li Dan leaned back in her chair, hands shaking slightly from exhaustion. "They'll remember this." Han finally sat down. "Yes," he said, "and so will the galaxy." The coalition response did not take long this time. Transmission did not come from a council hall filled with shouting voices. It came from a single chamber. One speaker, High Coordinator Velis, appeared on the screen. The confidence was gone. What remained was honesty. "You were right," Velis said. "We failed." Han did not interrupt. "We chose order over courage," Velis continued. "We believed containment would protect us. Instead, it fed the enemy." The word spread across open channels. Coalition citizens watched in silence. Velis lowered its head. "The coalition requests alliance." The bridge was silent. Kong looked at Han. "Your call." Han studied Velis carefully. "An alliance requires trust," he said. "Trust requires truth." "All records are now public," Velis replied. "All decisions. All names." Han nodded once. "Then listen carefully." He stood. "Humanity does not seek control," Han said. "We seek survival. Yours and ours," Velis swallowed. "And the cost?" "Change," Han said. "And accountability." Ada. The transmission ended across the galaxy. Reactions were swift. Some worlds cheered, others armed themselves. A few old powers collapsed overnight. As citizens demanded answers, human. Fleets did not pause. More ships woke from stasis in forgotten systems. Old shipyards reactivated. Supply lines formed with brutal speed and clear. Purpose Darth broadcast openly for the first time in centuries. The image was simple. A blue world alive. Crowds across alien worlds watched the broadcast. Some felt relief. Others felt fear. So -YEON watched quietly from the medical bay. "They're seeing us as we are," she said. Lee nodded. "Not monsters. Not myths. Soldiers," Kong added. Han shook his head. "Survivors." The Resolute changed course, not toward battle, toward rebuilding. Human task groups moved into damaged systems. They escorted refugees, repaired stations, shared medical aid that ignored coalition. Limit's Deathworld medicine shocked alien doctors human. Endurance shocked everyone. The Void Swarm did not disappear, but it no longer moved freely. Human patrols hunted, remnants with patience and precision. Each victory pushed the swarm farther into the dark. A new balance formed, not through law, through action. On a distant world once marked as lost, life returned. Ships landed. Lights turned on again. Children played under alien skies, watched by human soldiers who stood guard without banners. One evening, Han stood alone on the bridge. Era spoke softly. "Long-range scans show reduced swarm activity across multiple regions." Han nodded. "They learned." "Yes," Ara replied. "As have we." A final message arrived from the Coalition. "What will history call this?" Velas asked. Han considered the question. He thought of the ignored. SOS, the silence that followed, and the choice humanity made. "Call it what you want," Han said. "Just remember why it happened." The Resolute continued forward, not as a ghost from the past, but as a warning and a promise. The galaxy had learned the truth. Humanity was never gone. It was waiting. And when the universe cried for help, humanity answered.